Geeks, nerds, dungeon masters, and NPCs, Trekkies, and Whovians. Welcome to the first episode of the newest and best pop culture geek nerd podcast in history. Welcome to the Nerdy Old Men Podcast. I am, in fact, not a frackin' Cylon, but I am your humble co-host, Chad, and I would like to introduce you to one of my oldest friends and our co-host for these adventures in geekness. I affectionately call him Redneck Wes. Wes, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, this is, I don't know how I got dubbed Redneck. I mean, never would have guessed that in 1,000 years. But yeah, I'm Wes. I'm co-hosting, trying to keep this train on the rails if we can.
Not a chance.
I don't really know where we're going to go, folks. If you're listening to this, you're probably a nerd, geek, dork, probably didn't fit in, did some really cool things that everybody thought was crazy, and now they all want to do.
Absolutely.
But, yeah,
Tell us what you're interested
in,
man.
Me, myself, I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons going on 30 years. Most of that time I've actually played with Chad. We've had some adventures. And funny enough, mostly the same characters. I do a lot of stuff with the cosplay community. In several groups here in the area. We do a lot of stuff with our local convention, Fanboy Expo. Do a lot of outreach in the community, trying to do things to inspire and help people. Do a lot of work at Children's Hospital, where usually I'm dressed up as Captain America. One of my favorite characters. And if I'm not Captain America, usually I'm strutting my stuff as the one and only, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair.
Yes, sir.
But now, Chad, you've dabbled into the cosplay community. I know. What is it? Black Skull, or not Black Skull? Black Mask. I'm sorry.
Black Mask. Yeah. I've got a little. I do a little black. Yeah. I do a little. Yeah, we'll cut that one right in half. No, I do. I've done.
Yeah,
a Black Mask.
edit that.
I've done a few other ones too,
and I know you're also, like me, you've becoming quite the foam smith, working with the EVA foam, making costumes.
Yeah, I've kind of taken hankering to the steampunk. I like props, so that's kind of the thing.
Well, and props are fun because you can be very creative, do whatever you like.
That's right.
That's one of the cool things about it.
So for me, I've done a fair amount of cosplay, a little bit. I had a Batman back in the day, and I realized that the latex might kill me because of the heat.
You have to suffer for your craft.
Yeah,
you have to suffer for your
craft.
I
I couldn't do that. So even though I love Batman, I got rid of that and moved on to the bodysuit that is Deadpool, and I like that an awful lot. That one's the most comfortable one I ever had. But I've enjoyed building some with my daughter, and the steampunk stuff that I've built, the jetpack that I'm working on now, and the mechanical arm and shoulder that I've got, and the top hat and stuff. And I've enjoyed that quite a bit. But other things that I've enjoyed, I love DC Comics. I love the dark.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Yeah, shut up, you Marvel goody two shoes.
I'm a Marvel guy.
It's not nearly dark enough. There's not enough blood and guts and murder.
Well, I was a Marvel guy before it was cool to be a Marvel guy.
That is, we were lots of things before.
Punisher, read Moon Knight,
That's true. But I like the DC.
Who would have thunk it, right?
That's true. I like the DC stuff. Like I've got the first issue of 3 Jokers sitting right here on the desk with me that I haven't gotten a chance to read yet.
Very nice.
Yeah, hopefully do that here pretty soon. That's the DC Black Label. So I like that stuff. Dungeons and Dragons, obviously. Good grief, Dungeons and Dragons. We met, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. We met playing football together, but we also we bonded over D&D, and we've been doing it ever since. And that's one of the greatest things.
Lord, D&D made us family.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can honestly say that with you and the guys,
yes,
who we'll get into later on,
absolutely,
the guys. Dungeons and Dragons made us family.
Absolutely.
I mean, football made us friends, but Dungeons and Dragons made us family.
That's absolutely right. And speaking of, obviously you've made fun, and you may be the only listener I have on my solo podcast, which is called Trinity's Tirades, the rantings of a 40-something dad. So check that out at wherever you get your fine quality podcasts. But
That's
there's
S tirades on
S
Twitter.
tirades from Twitter. Yes, I don't know why it gave me that. But anyway, there is actually what inspired me to get you in here for the Nerdy Old Men podcast was the episode that I did titled "Roll for Initiative."
That's one of my favorite ones.
It was my favorite to do, and actually I listen to it periodically on my own just to it's a heartwarming thing about us and all of our other friends and the friendship that we built slaying monsters together ever since high school, So that's an important thing, and I think a lot of people out there feel that same way about their gaming groups and things like that. Other things that I get into is I'm a Warhammer guy now. I know that's something that you hadn't got into, but you did used to do BattleTech, right?
We did BattleTech quite a bit, and it's very similar to Warhammer.
Yes.
But I mean, I applaud the Warhammer people because when they are building their troops, no detail is spared.
Yeah.
I mean, especially like with the miniatures.
Yes, and I love miniatures. I love to paint little plastic men. That's.
As do I.
Yes.
I understand.
Yes. Yeah, and another thing.
Actually, I was about to say, I think one of the first miniatures I actually painted for someone else was an orc or a half orc barbarian that you had in one of our campaigns.
Yes.
I think I painted that one. I think that was the first one I painted for someone other than myself.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Other things that I enjoy is I love old vintage toys. I mean, I'm wearing a freaking He-Man T-shirt right now. So and you've seen my collection of old dusty toys.
Oh yes.
So,
no, they're not dusty.
They are not dusty.
Because those cases have been properly maintained and sealed.
Yeah,
because we heard a 15-minute lecture about that.
That is correct, sir. I just try to educate you. So, so we decided to get together and do this.
It's like, this is how you do it.
Yes. So we decided to get together and do this podcast. We want to bring in some of our other friends that have similar interests, but focusing in different areas like that. Today we just wanted to introduce this a little bit, and future episodes of the Nerdy Old Men podcast.
We're sorry.
Yes, we're sorry, but we want you to suffer through, I promise. You're going to get to meet some of our other old decrepit friends that have the same interests as we do. But we also got some pretty cool guests that we think we're going to be able to interview on the way up, and we don't want to reveal too much of that because, well, we haven't suckered them all into doing it yet. But what we're going to try to do is reach out to some local businesses that we know in the area that we live that cater to people like us and you guys out there. And reach out to some beyond that area too. So if anyone happens to be listening to this and wants to contribute or wants to be featured, we'd love to do that. And you can reach out to us. We've got an email. I know this is going to be complicated, but it's nerdyoldmen@gmail.com. And you can also
my gosh, what was that again?
nerdyoldmen@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter @nerdyoldmen. So you see, that's extremely complicated, but we know the intellectual level of nerds and geeks is at such a high point that this ought to be pretty simple.
Once this podcast hit, it'll be trending all over Twitter. I can just feel it.
Of course.
That was convincing, right?
Yeah, I love it. So I tell you what, since D&D brought us together, let's reminisce. Let's reminisce a little bit on
we're jumping into the D&D episode right off the bat. I love that.
There's probably going to be 15 or 20 of just D&D, but that's okay because you can never have too much of D20.
You can never have too much D&D. No, you cannot, unless you're on the receiving end of that fireball.
Yeah, speaking of. Well, I mean, let's kind of chat a little bit about those characters.
I still remember the first time you cast a fireball in a contained area.
Well, hasn't everyone done that? I mean, I've even got a T-shirt that says, I don't care about the size of the room. I said cast fireball. Because once you get that third level spell, right? Yeah, once you get that spell, it is you want to use it all the time. Even if you don't use it correctly.
That's a signature spell. That's a statement piece.
Absolutely. So who Wes is talking about is my beloved all-time old character, Lagar. He was a mage, Still is, obviously, because he survived everything.
Our favorite wizard.
Yes, who was a bumbling idiot part of the time and just blew stuff up because it was fun. But that's a character that I played when we started playing, I guess we were freshmen in high school. Well, when we started playing
Jason
together.
and I started playing 90, 91.
Right. But you and I we started playing together
91, 92, freshman year
of high school, yeah. And we've been playing ever since. But we took those
Oh my
characters
gosh,
from
when you
first
say it
level
like
up
that,
into, gosh,
Seems like such a long time ago.
it was a long time ago. But the
My paladin, I believe, is a 25th level character.
yes. So I guess we got up there.
So
of course, that doesn't
somewhere
translate
around
now.
25.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't translate
Oh no,
now.
it breaks a lot of 5th edition.
All of them.
But that's the fun thing with Dungeons and Dragons is, like when I DM, I kind of pull things from different versions. So my campaigns are not straight 5th edition.
Okay.
There's some stuff that I've taken from 2nd edition, from 3rd edition. Really loved 3rd edition.
Right.
But
that's the beauty
there's
of
some
D&D,
things
though,
that
right?
I've
I mean,
taken.
really?
Oh yeah. Well, as long as you can create and explore your imagination, and you can take your friends on this journey with you, and I know some people are because we were power gamers at one time.
Oh yes.
You go through that phase where you just want to amass power.
We were young and in high school and boys, of course. Duh.
Yeah, but looking back on it now, where I got to spend time with my friends.
Yes.
And people that I have been friends with for 30 years.
Absolutely.
That is the journey of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, greatest thing ever.
And that's what is, to me, so appealing about it.
It did not matter.
Oh, we had so much fun with it.
Yes, it does not matter that we accomplished anything. It doesn't matter all of the villages that we saved. It doesn't matter Dragon Mountain. It doesn't matter Under Mountain. None of those things matter. What matters is the interaction that we had and we still have today. There's dumb kids in high school, right? And then we get around this table. Well, now because of freaking COVID-19, we do it on Roll20, right? But we still gather. And most of us are still together, still doing it, still rolling dice. And there's no difference between sitting around this big freaking table that I built here or lying in the floor at somebody's house rolling dice with Jason half asleep saying, "You've seen a man."
You see a man.
What's the man doing,
walk up
Jason?
to him, he disappears.
You see a man. But introduce everybody else that doesn't know Adamus to
there were so many. Oh gosh, yes. Adamus Rightfall the Third.
Yes.
If you could combine Captain America, Superman, and a Boy Scout together, this is the obnoxious character that I've been told that I played.
You didn't just play him; you embodied him and lived him.
I was
amazing.
But I think that was just because there was so much of me in the character. A paladin of Tyr, law and order, justice, doing the right thing. All I was missing was an American flag and a piece of apple pie. Which was great because Lagar was a little more fast and loose with the rules of what was considered legal, ethical, morally the right thing to do, which worked really well with Terrence's chaotic, evil, battle-raging dwarf. That's a story for another time, folks.
Absolutely correct.
But we ran the gambit in our party of, especially like if Jason got to play his thief. Lord help you if he was playing a thief, because he was so good at it.
Yes, absolutely.
Terrence was more of a meat and potatoes kind of guy. He was more like me in his style of play early on, and now with like the campaign that you're running, and he's playing a warlock. It's a completely different style, and he thinks about the game differently.
Absolutely, and speaking of that new or the quest that we've been running for a couple of years now, Tomb of Annihilation, is that I asked when we gathered you guys together was like, hey, play something you haven't played before, because that will be challenging. because I knew you knuckleheads would be
Oh yes, going from a
difficult to
paladin to a
trick.
thief.
Yeah, difficult to trick. So I was like, I Googled and found it. And I was like, what is the hardest produced quest right now? And everything I found was like, it's Tomb of Annihilation. They got TPKs all over the place. All right, cool. Let's go with that one. And then to double challenge it, I was like, you guys play something you've never played before. So there you go.
Well, that was smart on your part as a DM, because we had a very strict way of doing an adventure because everybody knew exactly what the role was. I was up front. I basically sucked up all the damage. You would be in the back just lobbing in like artillery, different spells. If Jason got behind you, I'm sorry, you're dead, because he was so good at working angles and getting. You could never hit him as a DM. And Jason playing his thief, you could never hit him because he was always somewhere out of the way, hidden something. Terrence was more like me. He was in the thick of it. And then Bo, and we didn't know what Bo was going to play because he was going to come up with some crazy. He was coming up with crazy classes before 5th edition.
Right before it was even
ever thought about making just. Yeah, you can't do that. Well, why not? This would be a good. Well, you can't do that. There's no stats for it. Well, what if we just make them up?
Sure.
Okay, Bo, sure. and bless his heart, you would have to know our friend Bo. He lost more characters, not from dying in the game, but because he would always stick them in a book and forget which book it was and could never find his character sheet again. So he would spend like 2 hours making a character and then play it one time and lose it. So,
and you know what's funny is it made me think of something right there when you were talking about that, where we used to put everything on paper. I mean, I've still got the green and pale white character sheet that Legar was born on.
I have, yes, I still have. As a matter of fact, I'm looking. Stand by. I'm actually pulling out my gray notebook that I had, the 3-ring binder, and there you go. Sure enough, right here under it says retired characters, but he's not really retired. He lives on.
He's a legend.
I'm looking. He is a legend. I'm looking at, Adamus Rightfall III. There's his stats. And it's the fact that that piece of paper is dang near 30 years old, because we weren't smart enough to have Post-it notes and things written. Everything was written down on your sheet. And so just over time, the original sheet just got erased so many times that I had to.
Again, back to the paper thing. Everything was on paper, and the smell of those old books, right? And you can still get books now.
Tangible and real, and it was, it existed.
Right. And because
it's like getting an old comic book, and you open it up and you can smell it.
You're right. And now you can do everything digital. And it's benefiting us right now because of COVID-19 and we don't want to risk any of that kind of stuff. And so we're able to actually use Roll20, which, if any of you have never seen it before, it's a fabulous interface. It works wonderfully for the purpose that we use it for. And
absolutely.
And I'm afraid it's going to make me lazy as a DM, because I can just click and drag and drop monsters instead of having my bucket of painted plastic
yourself.
over here, right? Yeah, and having to look up crap, we flip through the monsters manual to get the freaking stuff right. And then there's Jason over there who, is a speed reader and has a photographic memory, so I don't even know why I have books.
Yeah.
I could just go, Jason, what's the AC of a young red dragon?
It's 18 or 19.
Yeah, something in that area,
What's always funny is, because Jason and I were really bad about getting into rules debates.
No.
And it's funny when you catch him and he's wrong, because he still won't admit that he's wrong.
Oh, he gets that look on his face.
You're sitting there, okay, the spell, exactly. And the spell does this, and he's like, you can't do that. Well, I can do anything. I'm the DM. And he's like, I don't believe the spell works that way. Well, I need it to work this way. No. And he'll, right here.
Yep.
Dang it.
Yeah.
But it was always funny, because when he DM'd, well, yeah, I can do it. We never took ourselves too serious when we played, and I think that's what made it so much fun was
Yes, you're absolutely right, and we still don't, even though now that we're older. I mean, these guys, it's so funny, man. I just, an encounter rolls up, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to live through this thing. And they do it through tactics. You know, when we were kids, it was like, no, it's toe to toe. Well, you're a wizard. You shouldn't do that. I don't care. I got a dagger. Let's do this thing. You know?
Yeah, I want to stab him
and
for
then,
a
you know,
D4.
right. And we're playing Tomb of Annihilation, and any of you that have played that, you know, it's full of dinosaurs, right? So I throw this T-Rex on the board. Boom. And these guys, man, they split up and they go in opposite directions, and the T-Rex can never catch any of them until they pelt it to death. And that's brilliant, right? And I think that only comes from being a nerdy old man and being able to playing this for so long. I think that's where that mentality comes from versus, well, I mean, my brother plays with us, and he's a lot younger than us, and of course he's
Bless
a
his
fighter.
heart.
Yeah, he's a fighter though, so it is his job to go up and die. And but back in the day,
Well,
my point is we always did it.
Well, he had the ultimate role.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he had the ultimate role. First time he ever plays with us
Absolutely.
in first combat, and Jay is so excited. And he rolls that sparkling brand new D20 and the green and the gold in it, and it rolls across the table and comes up on a 1.
Yes. And he's knocked to 0 hit points with one shot from a gladiator in an alley in Port Nanzaru. That was my brother's first encounter in Dungeons and Dragons. Yet he's still here. So
welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Oh, that was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
But I mean, you couldn't have written it any better.
No,
you know, because he was so excited, and he was.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and now he, in honor of that, wears his D20 T-shirt that has the 1 on it that.
Yes.
Expletive deleted.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, but that's a story that happened 2 years ago. And,
yes.
And it's still very fresh in our minds, and we talk about it, we laugh about it, and we kid him all the time about being the meat shield. But he was playing the character the way he was supposed to. The dice just didn't cooperate that day.
No. And you know what? I'm glad that he joined along with us, because he is a different generation.
But I do remember
than we are, and I don't know that, you know, he hadn't had those experiences like that we had. And there's something about Dungeons and Dragons and sitting around a table, even if it's a virtual table, and working together and telling stories that really helps you escape from everyday life, right? In a good way. You know, everybody's got their own little stressors depending on what you do and all those kind of things. I mean, you've got twin girls, so that alone, I know, wears your butt out, right? And this is a bit of an escape to a world where you do have you've got control, right? So that's the beauty of Dungeons and Dragons.
And it's fun because you can do things that you normally wouldn't be able to or be allowed to. I know when we were playing, and we had went into this little mine, and Scott pulls, you know, a Legolas, hey, I'm going to jump the mine cart and hit the shield and slide in and fire. And you're like, I'm going to do it, see if it happens. And he rolled really well, pulled it off, came up with a cool kill shot, you know, and that was just something he just did. And we're all just like, wow, why didn't I think of something cool like that? You know, I'm just like, I'm going to sneak in and shoot the guy in the back and kill him, you know?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He comes up with this very elaborate kill,
right?
Which is cool,
and that's awesome. And that's our type of gaming, right? It's not it's not this super rigid stuff that you sometimes see on YouTube and other podcasts and things like that, where it's, no, by golly, you got to do it this freaking way. You know, no. It's fantasy, dude. That's the point.
Oh, absolutely.
Have fun. You like him when he tried that. We all laughed, and I was like, you know what, dude? Roll a d20 and tell me what your dexterity is, and we'll see if that shit happens. You know what I mean? And by golly, it did, and it was wonderful, right? Just wonderful. You know,
and it would have been equally epic if he had failed, because we would have something to make fun of him for.
Absolutely.
But you know, it was amazing because, you know, we were all kind of just like, well, we know we've got this guy cornered. There's more of us than there are of him. You know, we have the advantage, and then he comes up with something that just made that encounter so much cooler,
Oh
and he
yeah.
did it on the fly.
And
It
it's
was all
it's one of
imagination.
those things we're going to remember
So,
forever. And it was super fun.
oh yeah,
And we got a good crew together, and it's fun to sit around and do that.
yes, because 30 years later, I still get made fun of for levitating for losing a Holy Avenger.
That was the greatest thing ever, because Adamus was exceptionally a pain in the rear during that time frame, which was exactly what he should have been. And the fact that I don't even remember what
Well,
the
yeah,
circumstance was.
y'all
Let me
didn't mind when I was taking damage, killing
no,
stuff,
no. Let me set the stage here. Adamus had gotten a Holy Avenger, which those of you that have played Paladins or D&D,
and
you know,
everyone knew about it.
that's literally the Holy Grail for freaking Paladins, right?
But undone.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and our good friend Wes was very, very happy about it, and his expression of glee and joyfulness about having this Holy Avenger for Adamus was much like people who just start CrossFit and they want to tell you everything about it. And so this was Adamus and his freaking thing. So
I never thought about comparing it to starting CrossFit.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for that one, but I just don't care. But I don't remember the circumstances in which you lost that sword, but can you share that with the audience?
What happened? What happened? Our buddy Jason, because when we were playing this, and I got my Holy Avenger, and I was so tickled because I'd been trying for a long time to get one. The Dragonlance series of books was very popular, and we were all reading them, and Lord Soth the Death Knight was a character. And so Jason gets this great idea that while we're adventuring, we're going down this river. And as we're going down the river, we can see that leads towards a waterfall. So I was like, okay, we need to start going to the shore. Well, about the time we start to do that, this giant tidal wave comes down the river. And I'm like, a tidal wave on the river? He's like, shut up. So it because that's how Jason DM'd.
Of course.
If you didn't agree with it, it was just shut up. It's just what's happening. Yeah. And so the tidal wave knocks our boat over the falls, and we wake up, and everybody is injured and, you know, broken bones and missing items. And one of the items that was missing was my Holy Avenger. Now, we're playing at our friend Michael's house, and it's, I don't know, somewhere around 11, 12 at night. Okay, because that's what you did in high school. You stayed up all night, literally stayed up all night playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely.
Which was awesome. And I'm in the floor, and Jason says this. I don't really remember. It's kind of an out-of-body experience, you know.
Yeah, he blacked out.
I don't really remember exactly what happened, but I was told that I did a backflip. I did a backflip off the floor up into the air and apparently levitated for several seconds.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
And hit the floor and screamed, no.
How Wes casted a levitation spell in real life, but he just kind of vibrated off the ground. You know, he started kind of a low rumble of no, you know, and he just kind of vibrated off the ground. And it no disrespect, it was glorious.
Yeah, I mean, I eventually got it back, but it was so funny because I never will forget there was a dragon that lived in the lake. And this one-headed dragon is talking to us, and I want to say that it was maybe the red. It was a red dragon head, which to me didn't make sense. I was like, why is it in the water, you know? And I said something because, you know, having read the books and been a fan of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon and different things, I said, well, what if there's more heads under the water?
Tiamat.
Which everyone in the group made fun of me. Jason grinned at me. I knew what it was. Everybody else is making fun of me. And but long story short, we found out that we were in hell because that was an old first edition quest, the paladin that goes to hell. And basically Jason was kind of cherry picking some different items from different things and making this world because we didn't have, you know, the nice dry erase maps and the nice big fold out maps of Faerun or different places. So we had a book that had the maps from Middle Earth that Tolkien had done. And basically that was our world. And we started on one side at first level, and by the time we got to the other side, we were 20-something level. And everything happened for us on paper. Our reference was Middle Earth, which now, I mean, Lord, they've got so many resources, and you can get maps online, and that's what I do.
It was theater of the mind.
Games that I run is pull. Oh yes, absolutely. And what you imagined the monster being was always 10 times worse than what was actually in the book.
Absolutely.
And we had so much fun because we fought so many different things, and we always found a way to pull through as a group. And I mean, we would be back at school on Monday, and we would still be talking about something that happened Friday night.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
I mean, running wind sprints on the field, you know, popping pads and talking about, you know, the Lich we faced, or the demi-Lich in the bag of holding, you know, that kind of
the demi-Lich in the bag of holding.
Ridiculous stuff that couldn't possibly occur, but it did in our world. Yeah, that was okay.
Oh, and you'd get those looks from people, and they're like, "What are you talking about? You know, what are you talking about?"
You clearly don't
try
understand.
To explain it to somebody, and they just, you know, you don't understand how a Lich works. You don't know the inner workings of the mind of a Lich.
Yes, that's exactly right. You don't understand.
But it was it was so much fun, and I know we had a little stretch there where we got out of it because we had got older, and like you had started a family. I guess you were probably the first one of the group to get married, but it was, we had a little lull there. But even when we would talk on the phone, or you know, Christmas parties or whatnot, you know, we would always go back to Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely.
And it's cool that for 30 years I've had the same group of friends, and we're still doing things that we enjoy, which is telling a story.
Right.
And hanging out with our buddies.
You know, and one thing about this, our similar interests, and we'll talk about this on the podcast and with our friends, is that we embrace this thing. You know, just like I said in that other podcast, was that I'm unapologetic about it. I am who I am, and we're all that way, and we've always been that way. I'm unapologetically a Dungeons and Dragons player. I love it. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I wear T-shirts.
I'm 43 years old.
Yeah.
I have the T-shirt that says, "I'm not a geek. I'm a level 12 paladin."
That's right.
And,
exactly.
You know,
but you know what the beauty of it is that in high school we didn't care either. We didn't. It didn't matter. But that's something that I tell my kids is, be yourself. Don't conform to what is popular, because you will be you forever. Those people won't necessarily be there forever, and it doesn't matter what they think. And I know you impart the same thing on your girls, and we learned that by coming together as a group of brothers that didn't have the same mothers or fathers. You know, a group of.
Well, it was so funny because Jason, because a little backstory on us folks, Chad and I grew up on different parts of town. Mm-hmm. So we were in one middle school learning about, you know, Dungeons and Dragons and reading fantasy books and things. Well, they were on the other end of town in a different middle school doing the same thing. And for the longest time, the only one that I knew that was into that stuff was Jason. And he was the only one that I could talk to about fantasy stuff. And I mean, which I grew up on the Arthurian legends.
Right.
That was something I was interested in. Most kids don't, you know, you when you're little, you know, you might kind of do the knight in shining armor, and it's a phase, and honestly, we had phases, you know, because Transformers and He-Man and Thundercats and G.I. Joe, you know, mm-hmm. that was our childhood.
Hang on just a second. Just one thing. He-Man is not a phase. Master of the Universe is forever. Okay? Let's just get that straight. They don't call it Eternia for nothing. All right.
There you go. Hey, I understand, man. I mean,
you're right.
Most people do not know about the galaxy of Limbo, but, you know.
You're right. But I get the point.
Silverhawks, I'm still waiting on a live-action Silverhawks.
There you go. No, I get your point, what you're saying.
For us, that was that was our childhood, but there was a theme of the storytelling and the epic scope. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm a good guy, you're a bad guy. We would tell stories playing, and I think that's what Dungeons and Dragons embodied, was telling a story, and we were able to bring in different people that were like-minded, and we're telling this story, and people are adding to the story.
Yes.
Because Jason's thief, he was a sneaky son of a gun. You didn't know what he was going to do.
No.
And if he was DMing, all bets were off. Adamus was very structured and rigid and upright. Lagar, he could be a little, what he was going to do. He's a wild card.
It was a bit crazy.
Terrence was just whatever suited his fancy. Bo, he wanted to be the hero, but he was almost comic relief at times because of the characters that he made.
Right.
But
kind
that's what made the
hero,
but that's what made the group so much fun. Was we all weren't playing the same character. We were playing different characters, and everybody was adding to the overall experience.
Absolutely.
Which was so much fun.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why, 30 years later, we're still talking about this as if it happened last weekend.
Right. Absolutely.
True story.
True story. I think it and I'm sure anybody that listens to this and is in this type of thing will agree to that. And those that are outside, they don't understand, and they won't unless they give it a whirl and try to experience that world, which it is something that I've embraced and you have embraced, we all do different things, and we all went different directions as far as careers and things like that, yet we still have this common bond, and we'll have it forever. And like I mentioned in the in the Trinity's Tirades podcast, Roll for Initiative, and I mentioned it at the end. I'm like, if I go first, you assholes better bring some dice and put it in my freaking casket, because I'll be waiting for you on the other side with a campaign ready to roll, baby.
I know we had said that because our friend Jason, he actually is really sick, and we had said this 20 years ago. I mean, he's had a lot of problems, and we Jason had this one black die that had a rose where the 20 is supposed to be.
Yes.
And he called it his rose die.
Yep.
If he was playing with us, we loved that die because it would always roll on 20. I mean, I don't know if something about the way it was weighted or if it was just the way Jason tossed it on the table. But when that son of a gun was DMing, we hated that die. And I said, I think it was just a joke offhand. I said, Jason, if you ever die, I'm burying that dice with you. And I think that was what kind of, somebody said, well, make sure it's in a Crown Royal bag, because everybody that plays Dungeons and Dragons
has a Crown Royal bag, obviously.
Has a Crown Royal bag. I don't know why. It's just you do, and it's filled with dice that you're never going to roll, but you have to have more.
Right.
And it was like, okay, everybody's going to have to put in one so that you have a whole set, and it's from us. And we said that was something that we were going to do if any of us ever passed away.
That's symbolic of the bond that
like you said,
pencil and paper
I'm going to be sitting there waiting on you boys at the table going,
let's go. Ready to roll.
Absolutely. It's just, I'm going to be waiting, and it's roll for initiative.
Well, we're probably rolling up on time to put an end to the
ramblings of two old men.
First episode of the Nerdy Old Men podcast. And I promise you, if you listen to this long enough, I'm going to probably say dirty because I'm stupid, and instead of saying nerdy. But in fact, it is the Nerdy Old Men podcast. And some ideas that we've had for the future are obviously doing some interviews, but we're going to do some debates too, and we'll bring in like I said, our decrepit old friends to do it too. The classic DC versus Marvel, where DC wins all the time, obviously. And then you've got the you got
Zack Snyder,
right? You got Star Trek versus Star Wars. What was the best toy line? Best D&D editions, best or worst superhero film. Green Lantern. Then you've got best
Well, and
superhero
even
TV shows, that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. One in particular that I know my daughter would love to debate with is what film franchise is better, the Lord of the Rings trilogy or the Hobbit films. She's got a distinct opinion on that. So, but we're going to talk about that crazy, silly, what some people would think would be stupid things. But we're gonna do that, and we're gonna bring in some guests. So if if you're listening to this and
the Dolph Lundgren Punisher is way underrated, just gonna throw that out there. If we're gonna talk movies,
I will agree with you on that one. I will agree with you on that one, on sir. Very good point.
Just saying.
So these are some great ideas. So if anybody's listening,
I'll get some heat for that.
They want to be included in our silliness here and our adventures in geekdom. Again, reach out to us. That email address again is nerdyoldmen@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at nerdyoldmen. That's nerdy old men on Twitter. So Wes,
I appreciate you coming up with this idea because just nothing else. It's just us getting to hang out and talk about stuff that we like. But I think it'll be a lot of fun.
You're absolutely
other people
right.
enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think so too. So until next time, I'm Chad for Nerdy Old Men, and this is Wes. Wes, give us a little Ric Flair as we exit the show.
You gotta channel the Nature Boy, styling and profiling, limousine riding, Learjet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing. Greatest thing going on God's green earth. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love it. Just learn to live with it. Woo!
Outstanding. This has been the Nerdy Old Men Podcast.